Welcome, everyone. I'm Kathy Hempel, Chair of the Marblehead Democratic Town Committee. This evening's meet and greet is a collaboration between Marblehead, Lynn, and Swampscott committees. We wanted to have a short event early in the campaign to introduce the candidates to you. We are hoping this introduction causes you to, after tonight, to learn more about the candidates and perhaps donate or volunteer for their campaigns. Debbie Friedlander, Chair of Swampscott, would like to say a few words.
My goodness, took me a moment to unmute myself. Thank you, Kathy. And I want to welcome everyone here, as Kathy has just done, and also thank our other co-host, Natasha Meggie Madry, the outreach coordinator of the Lynn Democratic City Committee. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank some other Marblehead Dems, Jennifer Martell, Margie Herrick, and Christy Staples, who were part of planning this event. I too want to welcome everyone to this evening. The 8th Essex District is a very special place, as we all know, running along the Atlantic, close to Boston, yet still feeling very much like a small beach community. We've all been very well represented for the last 14 years by our former rep, Lori Ehrlich, her commitment to the nuances and policy initiatives serving the specific needs of our part of the Commonwealth, while recognizing we're part of a whole, highlighted her ability to cajole, balance, and continually persist for what she believed in. How lucky are we that so many have raised their hand wanting to serve? And I must take a moment to thank our candidates who, though they haven't as yet joined us, deserve to have their names said out loud. Diane Slavitt-Bayless, Doug Thompson, Tristan Smith, Jenny Armini, Polly Titcomb, and Terry Toro. I commend all of them. In today's environment, it takes a certain amount of fortitude and a constant belief in our system of government to raise your hand. And I think I can speak for everyone here when I say we're grateful that they have. To all of you who are joining us, I thank you too for knowing how important this position is, for setting aside the time to meet and greet as we enter into our campaign season. Do note, we do plan on doing a formal forum at a later date, and all of you will hear about that. And as Kathy had said, this meeting is being recorded. And again, please keep yourselves muted if you haven't as yet done so. Thank you.
Natasha.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natasha Meggie Madry, and I want to welcome you to tonight's event as well. On behalf of the Lynn Democratic City Committee, we are excited to collaborate with the Marblehead and Swampscott Dems. Thank you again for taking the time to hear from these amazing candidates. As a reminder, please stay on mute during the entire meeting. Thank you so much again for taking this time. We appreciate it.
So one thing we haven't said is how the evening will progress. So each candidate is going to have a 10-minute time slot. They'll join us, introduce themselves, perhaps talk a little bit about the priorities, and then at the appropriate time, open the floor for questions. And we'd ask that folks raise their hand and ask, and we can open and ask your question. And then the candidate will leave and the next candidate will join for the next 10-minute time slot. So again, our hope was to make this not too long an evening, give you a short introduction to each candidate, hear a little bit about them. Hopefully they'll put their campaign information into chat, and you can follow up on your own after the meeting and learn a little bit more if you'd like. Anything else that we need to say, ladies? Are we good? Well, that went faster than I thought. I guess, I mean, why don't we kick it off? And we'll just start 5 minutes early, and then end our folks' evening a little bit earlier. So please welcome Diane Slavitt Bayless. Diane, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank the Marblehead, Lynn, and Swampscott Town Committees and City Committee for sponsoring this forum tonight. It's going to be a great way to meet everyone. I wish it could be in person, but this is good as well. I just wanted to tell you a few things about myself to begin. My husband and I and our kids live in Marblehead. We're on Ticehurst Lane, and I'm an attorney. I primarily focus on immigration law, but I've done a lot of other kinds of law. I've done a lot of pro bono work with the Kind organization in Boston, and what it does is it gives free legal representation to unaccompanied children that come into the country. And I've spent a lot of time working with the Lawyer of the Day program at the Essex Probate Court, where people come in, and if they have, if they're under a certain income, we help them with things like restraining orders in custody and things like that. And I'm also a mom. So between my husband and I, we have 4 kids. My oldest is in college, and my youngest is at the village school in Marblehead, 5th grade. And I'm also a long time Democratic activist. I have been involved in Democratic politics for many years. My first job out of college was at the Democratic State Committee. I worked on their staff for 6 years. I started under Chet Atkins, so I'm aging myself, and finished up with Steve Grossman. And that's actually where I met my husband as well. So it definitely has been a big part of my life. And I've gone to many conventions, been delegates to them, organized the conventions at the state committee, and just loved every bit of it. And I'm also, I've been an advocate against gun violence for many years. Unfortunately, I do have someone close to me that passed from gun violence. And, you know, at that point, I knew it wasn't somebody else's problem. You know, and I think everybody today knows that it's not somebody else's problem, because you won the P, you go see a movie, it's just crazy. So I had spoken about the red flag law before the legislature, and I've done spoken before state house rallies. Actually a local group wanted to raise awareness about gun violence, and they wanted to do a bike ride from Topsfield, Mass to Newtown, Connecticut. And I thought, well, I don't have a bike. I'm probably not going to participate. And so my husband says, oh, I have a friend with a tandem. So we did. We rode from Topsfield over 200 miles to Newtown in 3 days. And if anyone's wondering, we are still married. It was a very, very tough ride. But I just wanted you to know the passion that I have for this issue. And I've always loved the ocean and been a surfer, and just love Marblehead, Swampscott, and Lynn. I can't say enough about it. And I'll tell you why I'm running. I always thought I would be an elected official. I've worked in Democratic politics for a long time. I've worked on local campaigns, I've worked on state campaigns, I've worked on federal campaigns. And you know what? I know I'm living where I always wanted to live, and the job came up that I always wanted. So here I am tonight talking to you as a candidate for state representative. And I also want to run because I have a lot of priorities that need a lot of work done on, and I'm sure I share them with many of the voters here. Mostly 4 priorities would be the environment, strengthening the economy, improving our schools, and keeping our communities safe. And I also am running because I want to promote more civility in our public dialogue. I was fortunate enough to be a cast member of a PBS documentary called Divided We Fall. It was on a couple summers ago. And it basically took 12 Trumpers, 12 Democrats in Massachusetts, put us out on a farm in Western Mass. And we had great sessions on active listening and things like that. And it was an incredible weekend. And I really think that I have a lot to add to this to try to, reach out to the other side and have a decent conversation. So I said environment is a big one for me. I just want to say today would have been my father's 100th birthday. And I can't think of a better time to tell you what an influence he's had on me. I grew up on the Merrimack River. My dad was harbor master. He had a marina and he had a riverboat, a paddle boat. And he would take over 100 people up and down the Merrimack all the time. And he always stressed how important the Merrimack River was to the city of Haverhill, and also that it needed to be cleaned up. And I see the same similarities here. I see that how our beaches in this region impact the district's economy and the quality of life. And I also want to get on the standing committee on the climate, very important. And I want to clean up King's Beach. I think it's wonderful that Rep. Ehrlich and Senator Creighton, they did such a great job in getting the funding of $5 million for last year for the cleanup, but there's so much more to do. And we need the commitment and investment. And I'm willing to be the cheerleader for this district for that. I just feel so strong about cleaning up that beach. And I think that there should be a full environmental review for the peaker plant in Peabody. And I want to set aggressive goals for transitioning away from fossil fuels and toward renewable energy, and also including the electrification of our commuter rails. And for education, I mentioned my husband and I have 4 kids, and the schools are wonderful in this district. And we have suburban and urban schools, and I want to make sure that the state funding formula treats them both the same. And I also, will always make school funding a top priority when the budget comes around every year. And also, our kids are under a lot of stress these days. It's because of the growing epidemic of gun violence, and also, the stress from the pandemic. And I really think we need to add to our counselors at the schools. I've talked to somebody recently who said, they have great counselors at school, but they suggest that they go and get a private one as well. And she was trying for months and months to get a private one, and it's just not working. And I don't know how we can go forward without fixing what the pandemic has done to us already. So I already spoke about gun violence, but I just want to say that, kids, parents, moviegoers, tea riders, no one should have to go to bed at night worrying about gun violence the next day. This is just something that I told you I took on, and I hope you all will realize it's not somebody else's problem. And I also want to talk about the economy. And I want to, and we all know how closely tied the economy is to the ocean and in industries like fishing and recreation and boating. The North Shore Blue Economy Initiative put out a report last year, and it provided pretty much a blueprint for ocean-related economic growth while balancing the sustainability of our oceanfront region. So I feel like with smart planning and investment, we can capitalize on these opportunities and create a lot of great jobs. And as we know, I bet a lot of you know that Massachusetts is the leader in life sciences, and we have a lot of people who work in life sciences in this area and in this district. And we need to continue with our development of workforce, and also training.
I don't think you do, so
And I also wanted to ramp up support for higher education, especially Salem State and North Shore Community College. And then if you add Endicott and a few other colleges, they're part of the North Shore Consortium, Life Sciences, and we need to continue funding so that they can be trained in this area. I don't know how I'm doing in my 10 minutes, so I think I'll try to wrap it up. But I want to thank you for listening to me, and I hope you support me. And if you support me, I hope they can get involved in the campaign. We are doing doors, going door to door, holding signs, making calls. It's a real grassroots campaign, and we'd love for anybody out there to be a part of it. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can go to my website, www.votefordyann.com. And I just have to say, Diane is spelled D-I-A-N-N, no E. So I think everybody, if they can remember that, they'll find me. So again, I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Diane. That was terrific. And you're spot on the time. It's 7:14.
Oh, okay.
So thank you. And actually 7:50 now. So we'll say goodbye to Diane and welcome Doug Thompson, Jen.
Diane, we're going to ask that you leave the room.
Yeah, I'm
Please.
leaving.
Okay, thank you.
Hello,
Hi. Like, is that you, Doug?
I can't hear you.
Oh, there you are. You're in the top left there. Hi, Doug. This is Kathy Hempel, Chair of the Marblehead Committee. And we'd like to welcome you, and you can kick off. Can you hear us okay? Is there some technical difficulty? Doug, can you hear me? Can it,
He's muted now. I think he may be having a little problem with his sound.
yeah. Doug, you can hear me, right, Deb?
I absolutely can.
Okay. It sounds like Doug
Can you
is
hear me
having, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Super.
Hello,
I still
welcome.
can't hear you.
Huh, that's strange. Well, let's see. Let me just say to Doug, we can hear you.
Mhm. And we'll judge the time from when he starts.
Yes, of course. Did he leave? It looks like he might have left the room.
Yeah, possibly he's going to try to come back in, which might help. It just could be a glitch. We're so sorry, everyone. Do bear with us. As you know, technology doesn't always work in accordance to how it should. So I'm sure he'll be right back. Just bear
Oh,
with
here he
us.
is. Here, I'll let him in from the waiting room.
Super.
Doug, can you hear us now?
Um,
How about
if
now?
I may.
Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Can you hear us now, Doug?
Yeah, everything's perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Super.
Terrific. So, welcome, and you've got quite a crowd, so please introduce yourself and let us know more about you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. So thank you all very much for coming tonight. This level of participation is incredibly great sign for our democracy, and I really appreciate your interest in this race. I'm running to be your next state representative to make real progress on the issues we all care about for all parts of this district. From Sagamore Hill and Diamond District neighborhoods in Lynn to all the neighborhoods of Swampscott and Marblehead. I will be the hardest working, most productive, and most accessible state rep. I've been all over the district already knocking on doors, hundreds and hundreds of conversations, and I will always be ready to come to you whenever you have a concern. As many of you know, I'm incredibly fortunate that Naomi Dreeben has joined my campaign as campaign manager, and she'll put my phone number and email in the chat so you know how to reach me. Feel free to reach out at any time. That's how I'll be during the campaign, and that's how I'll be as your state rep. I'd like to give you just a little bit of background on me and my values and experiences that drive me. Since many of you, I know some of you well, but not everybody, of course. I grew up near Buffalo, New York, in a working class family. My father worked at GM on the assembly line, hard work and pretty unpredictable with layoffs in the late 70s. Mother went back to work as administrative assistant to help out. Basically a working class family struggling to get by. I started working at the age of 12 to support the family as well. Started as a paper route in the balmy Buffalo winters, and did lots of manual labor as I was growing up, landscaping, etc. We needed help from the community at times, and we gave back when we could. this is probably the most important thing to know about me and my values. I've been on the receiving end of needing help in challenging times and want to make sure that state government is there when people need it. With good grades and lots of student loans and grants and work study, I was able to go to college at BU. I'd always thought I'd become a doctor and took all my pre-med classes and then took my first philosophy class. And that really opened my mind up to a much broader sense of health. My politics started in college as well. This was the late 80s. Homelessness was increasing rapidly. And here I'm at this university with all this leftover food at dining halls, and something kind of connected for me and said, you know, what's going on here? I helped start what's called a student food rescue. And we picked up a lot of excess food from dining halls and Whole Foods, et cetera, and took it to homeless shelters and soup kitchens. And that says a little bit about what I've done for the rest of my life, kind of seeing problems and finding common sense solutions to them. During college, I also proudly cast my first vote for president for Mike Dukakis. I can still remember that fire hall very clearly. And I've only voted for Democrats my entire life. After college, I worked at a homeless and low-income not-for-profit for several years and really immersed myself in the challenges that people faced: mental health, substance use, immigration, housing, AIDS, and of course, very little to no income. That experience really crystallized my interest in pursuing a master's in public policy. I was fortunate to get accepted to the Kennedy School of Government, where I focused on welfare, healthcare, and housing policy. In between my 2 years there, I had a great opportunity to work on the Clinton healthcare plan in 1994 in the war room to try to expand insurance, and really saw the power of entrenched special interests there, which only really fueled my interest to get into politics more. I'm very proud of my work there. And I also, during grad school, was the co-chair of the Democratic Caucus. After grad school, I went off to help several different states with healthcare reform for a number of years, especially in mental health, and worked on several gubernatorial campaigns here in Massachusetts, and then became the chief financial officer of Mass Health, the state's $8 billion Medicaid program. 8 billion at that point, it's 20 billion now, serving over 1 million of our fellow residents. My specialty there and focus, this was during the Great Recession and right after healthcare reform started, was to really drive further innovation. So we could save literally hundreds of millions of dollars and expand access. I took that experience and went and worked with several other not-for-profits, Cambridge Health Alliance, Neighborhood Health Plan for two, to help them with turnarounds and transformations to prepare for the evolution in healthcare. Most recently, I helped lead and co-found and start a company called Perfect Health with other healthcare leaders. We provided primary care for seniors at home. And we expanded it all over Massachusetts, particularly Eastern Massachusetts, including in this area, in the 8th Essex. And eventually, after expanding that, merged that with another company to grow it nationally. And now it exists in 6 states. We employ 50 people, including right here in this district, and experience all the joys and challenges of growing a business. My mastery of large, complex issues like healthcare is what you'll get with me as your state representative. I believe I'm the only one in this race that has led the large-scale progressive change on a statewide basis that we desperately need. The state budget is $48 billion, and we need someone who can help make sure that it reflects our priorities. I know how to work a budget process. My greatest strength is in this large-scale policy development. We need to get healthcare cost increases under control for the benefit of the 50% of people, despite having insurance, who really still can't afford healthcare that they need. We need to get under control these healthcare costs for businesses and municipalities who are burdened with it as well. And we need to also get it under control so we can start putting more money into many other issues that are getting squeezed out by healthcare costs. As a lifelong Democrat, I've been committed to healthcare affordability and universal coverage. We spend $20 billion a year, as I mentioned, on healthcare in the state budget, and only $300 million on the environment, for example. This ratio really needs to change. I've put out a very detailed climate crisis plan. It's on my website. Love for you to read it. I believe I'm the first person to do so. It shows how I can master complex subjects and move the conversation forward. I would strongly continue the leadership Representative Ehrlich provided on the environment and climate, with her continued focus on gas leaks. Unfortunately, the problem, I think, is still getting worse. Her future of heat legislation, and the other measures that are in my plan to address the climate crisis and seize the opportunity to create many green jobs right here on the North Shore. I'm really thrilled to have a chance to represent this district that I love from one end to the other. I have been fortunate to succeed in healthcare, and now I'm ready to be your full-time representative, to give back to a district and the Commonwealth that has given me so much. I will be an independent voice for your interests, not the special interests that have impeded progress. There are many other issues that are important to me and the people of this district. Economic opportunity, including transportation. We need to electrify the commuter rail. We need to decrease or eliminate the fares. Housing, racial equity, education. I strongly support the millionaire's tax to get more resources into education and transportation. We've got work to do on government transparency. We definitely have to move forward on cleaning up Kings Beach, creating more coastal resiliency around the district, and preserving our historical heritage of this area centered on the ocean. But I'm going to pause here to leave a few minutes to take your questions. I look forward to earning and supporting, I look forward to earning your support and your vote, and please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Doug. So folks, we have about a minute, probably less, actually. It's about time. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, Doug, but Naomi shared your website and email and phone, and folks, feel free to reach out if you have questions for Doug.
Yeah, please do. My apologies. That was only supposed to be about 7 minutes. So I'm sorry that somehow took longer. Maybe my technical difficulties interfered. I apologize.
No, I gave you 10 minutes. I did.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
nice to meet you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
So Jen, you can let Tristan in. Hello, Tristan.
Good evening, Kathy. I'm here.
Oh, there you are. It's funny how you just kind of pop up there. So don't want to take any of your time to say anything further. So feel free to kick off and welcome yourself and introduce yourself to our folks here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kathy. Wow, what a turnout. I'm looking at the number and sort of the Hollywood squares here. This is unbelievable. Thank you so much to everyone for coming out tonight. And a big thank you, of course, to the Marblehead Democratic Town Committee, the Swampscott Democratic Town Committee, and the Lynn Democratic City Committee for putting on this virtual meet and greet. For those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before tonight, my name is Tristan Smith, and I'm one of the candidates hoping to be your next state representative for the 8th Essex District. So a little bit about me. I was born and I've lived my entire life in this district. I graduated from Swampscott High School in 2014. I graduated summa cum laude from Salem State University in 2018 with a degree in, you guessed it, political science. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but in less than a month from today, I will walk across the stage and get my Juris Doctor from Suffolk University Law School, which I'm obviously very, very excited about. So why now? Why did I look at this open seat and say, this is the time that I can serve this district? I think anyone who knows me knows that public service has been sort of a tradition in my family. My father, Jimmy Smith, was a state rep from West Lynn back in the 70s. And my cousin, Stephen Walsh, was a state rep for Lynn and Nahant in 2005 to about 2014. Additionally, my aunt, Deborah Smith Walsh, was a city councilor in Lynn, as well as on the Lynn School Committee. But beyond just being a state representative, what's really important to me is the opportunity to be a state representative for this district. Lynn is not only the city that my father served, it's the city where my mother and father met. Marblehead is the town where my older siblings, Haley and Andrew, grew up. And Swampscott is the town where me and my younger sister, Chloe, grew up. These are the communities that I know. I know the people, I know the problems. I've been personally affected by these issues. And that's why it's so important to me to be a state representative for this district. So what are those issues that I feel are most important for this election? Well, the first one for me, and you're going to hear this throughout this campaign, is the climate and the environment. We're facing a climate crisis, and as an entirely seaside district, lucky us, we're some of the first people in the state, in the country, and on the planet that might have to see some of climate change's most devastating effects. And of course, any climate initiative that I support is going to have a just transition for workers who are displaced, as well as for their families. And I think one of the big ways that we can combat climate change is by investing differently in our public transportation. And that's why it's another key issue of this campaign. I don't have to tell anyone in this Zoom how hard it is to get from here to Boston, or frankly anywhere, especially without a car. But we have a unique opportunity to not only make our public transportation better, more consistent, and more efficient, but we can also do so in a green way. And let's never talk about public transportation without talking about social justice, because that's exactly what public transportation is. It's access. It's access to healthcare. It's access to housing. It's access to jobs. It's access to education. Education, which is another one of my key points. I'm a personal beneficiary of some of the best public education in the world. But for far too many, public higher ed is unaffordable and inaccessible. Additionally, I have the unique experience of being the only candidate in this race, and maybe the only person in this Zoom, who's been both a student and a teacher on Zoom during the COVID-19 pandemic. That gives me a really unique perspective. And as someone who's worked in the schools and worked with teachers, I think I know how to craft policy to get our kids back into classrooms safely while making sure we can make up for any lost learning that is entirely possible from 1 to 2 years going from in-person to virtual. I think we can all agree on that. Obviously, there are so many more important issues. It's taking care of our veterans who gave us so much and asked for so little. It's comprehensive criminal justice reform that keeps people out of the system, and when they do get involved in it, isn't a revolving door. It's affordable housing so that my friends can afford to move back to these neighborhoods that we call our hometowns. And it's so many others that I don't have time to talk about right now, but are equally important. But what I think is really, really a key point of how I view the state representative position is I think that they wear two hats. And the first is sort of looking at these issues on the macro level, the big picture. And that means supporting, championing, and voting for these progressive policies that move the entire Commonwealth forward. But the second, and this one I think is really important for this district, is someone who's able to be that neighborhood rep, who knows the people, who knows the players, who knows the history, who knows the problems, and knows how to effectively translate and advocate for us on Beacon Hill. And that's where I really think I can shine in particular. That's a little bit about me in a pretty big nutshell. This is the district where I was a student and an athlete, then a teacher and now a coach. And now I want to be its state representative. I'm going to leave it there. I really look forward to some questions, and I really look forward to meeting more of you virtually or in person throughout the campaign trail.
Terrific. Thank you, Tristan. So
Thanks.
folks, raise your hand if you'd like to ask Tristan a question, please.
This is what it was like being a teacher on Zoom, by the way. I know someone has a question.
There's nothing in chat.
Jennifer Martell.
Hi, Tristan. I was with your friend Jared Solomon the other night. I know you went to high school with Jared.
Elementary
this
school
is
and
a-
middle school as well.
Yeah, he told me that.
We go way back.
So I would have asked the other candidates this. For me, this is just a really personal issue. And I know that we're very fortunate to live in this state with the Roe Act. I just want to know that you are committed to the Roe Act and to, a continued protection of reproductive rights with everything that's going on.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely committed to the Roe Act. Reproductive rights is an extremely important issue. And I think the Roe Act, not to go off topic to your question, but I think it's a great example of how this state has been able to codify things to protect us from what's happening in the Supreme Court. So it is so important to keep the Roe Act and protect it. And it's so important to be ready as legislators, to be ready to put in more protections if the Supreme Court strikes down more of the protections that we've been enjoying so far. So thank you so much. That's a really good question.
Thanks, Tristan.
I see Judith Black has her hand raised. Judith?
Hi, Kristen. So I'm sure you know that the culture of our state house is not one that is decorated with much transparency, and that the speaker has a huge amount of power. And if you are not in the speaker's good graces, your bills don't get to the floor, you don't get staffers. It is hard. And I'm just
I think you may have cut out there. I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone
I think
else
we
got
actually
that.
lost her, Tristan, but I think you get the gist of her question.
I got the gist of the question for sure. I think the transparency is absolutely a really important point. I'm really glad that you bring that up. One of the things that I'm going to do as a state rep is I'm going to lead by example. And that means putting my committee votes on my website, very easy to find. You don't have to go searching for a bill number. We'll put the simple title of the bill, the sponsors, and how I voted in committee. And another thing about it is you'll be able to ask me why. That's the type of rep that I want to be. There's no one in this Zoom who's going to agree with me 100% of the time, not one person. I think my mom is on, so maybe her, but other than that, no one's going to agree with me 100% of the time. But just know that if I am your state rep, you will have a state rep where you can call up and always ask, so Tristan, what happened there? Because I looked at it this, and this way, and you voted the other way. And you'll have someone who'll be able to explain to you why. And I'm a man of principle, and that's going to inform my votes.
And I think we have one more person that would like to ask a question, Gordon Corzine.
It's actually Carolyn who's asking the question.
Okay.
I'm wondering what you have to say about transportation. There was recently a discussion about connecting MBT access to Marblehead and linking it with affordable housing. And I wondered what you might say about all of that.
Absolutely. So there's a lot in that little question. I'm glad that you asked it the way that you did, because there's a lot to work with. I think, Marblehead in particular in this district has a particularly tough situation with the MBTA, because Swampscott has a commuter rail stop and Lynn has a commuter rail stop, but Marblehead doesn't. And the bus used to go all the way to Boston, but now you have to make a transfer at Wonderland, and it's just much more of a situation. So I'm very supportive of efforts for more affordable housing in general. And I think that coupling them with public transportation makes perfect sense for all the reasons that I stated before. Public transportation is so much more than getting from point A to point B. If point A is home and point B is a job or daycare or school, that's so much more than just what it sounds like. So I think that's a really, really good question. And I'm very excited to look into more opportunities for bringing Marblehead in with the rest of the district. Not that the rest of the district has it that great. Don't get me wrong. There's not much parking at the Swampscott commuter rail station, but having us all grow together in that.
Terrific. Thank you, Tristan. And
Thank
I
you so
think
much.
that's the end of your time. So thank you again for your kind introduction and information about yourself.
Thank you.
And Jen, can you let Jenny into the room? Jenny, are you here? Jenny?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Welcome.
Hi.
We are just letting the candidates kick off rather than doing any kind of introduction ourselves, so you have the maximum time to say hello to folks.
That sounds great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the three committees for hosting this. And thank you to my fellow candidates for participating. And thanks to all of you for being here to meet us. I have had the privilege of working with many of you over the last several years of political turmoil. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenny Armini from Marblehead. I am the mother of 2 teenagers. I am a wife. I am a speechwriter. I've had the good fortune of some interesting clients, working for university presidents and CEOs and even some politicians. I worked for Governor Patrick when he was in office. And I am a political and a policy junkie from way back. Lesser known is I am my grandfather's granddaughter. My grandfather's name was Jacob Walensky. And his story is very similar, I'm sure, to many of your family stories. He arrived on Ellis Island with nothing but the shirt on his back. And but what's interesting and inspiring to me about him is that he got involved in Democratic politics almost the minute he got off the boat. And here was a guy who barely spoke English, but was so eager to get involved in his new country's government. And I find his story resonates with me now more than ever, because we're in a moment that cries out for people of all backgrounds to get involved in our democracy, and for all of us to take on causes greater than our own self-interest. And that's exactly why I'm running for state representative, because I love bringing people together to solve big problems. That's what I did when I was a congressional aide in Washington, where I analyzed policy, I wrote legislation, I created coalitions on a range of issues, from education to healthcare to housing to immigration to LGBTQ rights and women's reproductive rights. And I did it as a policy and a communications staffer on Beacon Hill. More recently, my friend Maureen Kay and I got together and decided we would try and do something with the anger that was in our communities after Trump was elected. So we created a grassroots organization called Elect Blue. And I am so grateful to the many people who came to our monthly briefings and our postcard nights and our fundraising events. We ended up raising thousands of dollars for Democrats in US House and Senate races around the country. But more than that, we created a community, and we were able to inspire people to, not tune out, but tune in. And in the process, we all found some hope. And we're at another inflection point. And this is a moment that requires expertise. It requires experience. It requires leadership. Our communities are reeling from the pandemic. The past 2+ years have brought about new problems, exacerbated old problems, and laid bare the deep, deep inequities in our society. So, this is a moment that requires someone who can bring people together to get things done. Now, here are 3 things that I would like to get done pronto. So the first is a COVID recovery for kids that invests new resources in students and in teachers. We have to address the mental health crisis that is denying our children their childhoods and our teachers the kinds of classrooms that they can get the job done in. They will tell you that it's chaotic. That's going to take additional adjustment counselors in schools. It's going to take community and school-based activities. And it's going to take rethinking how we assess academic achievement moving forward. Now, the second thing we need to do is everything we can to meet the state's goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, if not earlier. Now, that's going to require electrifying public transportation, net zero building codes, and cleaning our electric grid so that we're relying on renewable sources of energy like wind and solar. And then the third thing we need to do is we need to get control of prescription drugs. Do you know 1 in 4 Massachusetts residents report not filling their prescriptions because of cost? And here's an amazing statistic. Do you know since 1996, the price of insulin has jumped 680%. Now, that is not research and development, which is what a lot of the big pharma companies will tell you. We know how to make insulin. This is pure profit. It is time that we cap the price of prescriptions for chronic illnesses like diabetes, like asthma. My favorite part of campaigning, I have to tell you, is going door to door. Politics is one of the few opportunities you have to hear directly from people about their hopes and their dreams and their worries. And yeah, even their anger. And it is a privilege to hear these stories. And it's a privilege to run for office. Somehow, my grandfather understood that. And he was honored to be part of the process. Why? I think, honestly, because he understood what it was like to live in a country without democracy. So I want to close by offering you my thanks for allowing me to apply for this job. It's a job that combines my professional skills, my grassroots organizing skills, and my deep, deep passion for serving the public good. I look forward to meeting all of you in person over the next 4 months. Please, if you get the chance, go to my website, which is armini48.com. And finally, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenny. We have time for maybe a 30-second question if anybody has a 30-second question.
Please ask.
We've had some hesitancy.
Oh, come on.
Anyone?
Margie. Can't hear you.
What is the first thing you would do about the environmental challenges that's facing our coastal communities?
The first thing I would do is make sure that our communities have the resources to shore up our coastal areas, because we talk about, and I talked about cleaning the grid and electrifying transportation, but the reality is we also have to grapple with the damage that's been done, right? And our seas are rising. There's nothing, at the moment, there's nothing we can do to stop the seas from rising. So we have really got to invest in shoring up our coastline. Each community has a harbor plan. And I know with both Marblehead, well, especially with Marblehead, I've read the harbor plan and saw that, people have identified, the Woods Hole group identified places where we need to do major work. And we have to protect the infrastructure that actually exists on the coast too. So I think the first thing we've got to do is tackle, those deficiencies, because that's not going away. The damage has been done.
Thanks, Jenny.
Sure.
Thank you for
Anything
your
else?
time tonight. And yeah, we're ready to move on to the next candidate. So
Okay.
thank you
All
for
right.
your time.
Thanks for everything. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye now. Jen, you want to let Polly into the meeting? Polly? Is Polly there? You say hello.
Yeah, and before we hear from Polly, Jenny, I know that you need to leave the meeting. Thank you. Super.
Is Polly there?
I'm here. Good evening.
Oh, okay, there you are. Rather than take time from your 10 minutes, Polly, we're just having candidates kick off their own introduction.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks. So first I want to thank the Lynn and Marblehead and Swampscott Democratic Town Committees for putting this event together. It's a great opportunity for us as candidates to have an early chance to introduce ourselves to all of you in a preliminary way, and hopefully encourage you to reach out to me in this instance to learn more about me and my candidacy. But I'll try to give a brief overview and leave room for questions. So my name is Polly Titcomb. I do want you all to know before I get started that I am a proud mom of two wonderful children who are 7 and 10 currently and attend the Swampscott Elementary Schools. But I'm not here to talk about that tonight. I am here to talk about my candidacy and why I'm running for office. And the real reason is that my professional path is one of public service. I've been clear about that for as long as I can remember. And I'm running for state representative at this time because this office is the most appropriate avenue, I believe, for me at this moment in time, for me to offer my service. I do believe that in the past many years, my demonstrated professional history has shown my commitment to public service. Actually, just last night, I finished up on the Swampscott Select Board after a 3-year term. I woke up this morning for the first time without that commitment. It was an interesting experience, but here I am now, and I'm excited about that. And I did just decide to run for, I gave up my chance to run for re-election to the Select Board, which I had initially decided to do, to run for this office. And I did that because I couldn't sit here tonight. I don't believe if I did not have the foundational experiences and knowledge that I've obtained in my role on the Select Board and in the 5 years prior to that on the Swampscott Finance Committee, and in the other experiences that are too detailed to go into, but over the years in municipal government. Because I feel without this knowledge, I don't feel that my ideas and ideals for policy could translate into ones that are grounded enough in realism and the restrictions of the finances and such to become an actuality. And it's this type of firsthand knowledge where the rubber really hits the road of policy and practicality that my experience has taught me. And I think it differentiates me in this particular race from the other candidates with that unique experience. I do believe I'm prepared to understand in great detail the challenges that Marblehead, Swampscott, and Lynn face, and the ways in which Beacon Hill can provide alleviation for these services. So I do care deeply about policy, but first and foremost, I believe state representatives need to be advocates for their communities, and I'm prepared to do that as a result of my experience. And on the select board, I had the first row seat to watch how Lori Ehrlich, who I saw briefly on the camera, I can't see now, was just wonderful to the Scott community, in addition to Marblehead and Lynn communities. And whenever we called upon her, she answered the phone, was always present when we asked and we needed her. And I know this seat's been long occupied, so I'm grateful for that. It's been long occupied by Marblehead residents, but I do hope and strive, if I were elected, to be like Lori in her responsiveness to the entire district and all of the district's needs, regardless of hometown. But being on the boards also helped me to realize that it's easy to say I'm going to get elected and get things done, or I'm optimistic and things will change. I think that's true in theory, and I want more than anybody for that to be true, just inherently true. But it's also been my experience that in my leadership positions to date, it's just that it's not that easy. And this is somewhat of a natural byproduct, I think, of the public sector, but it's not an excuse for being ineffective. It's just that what I've learned is that as leaders, we have to balance our optimism and determination, with being effective and getting something done, being uncompromising in transparency, but also being mindful of being efficient and the time it takes to push policies through, and being thorough in citizen engagement, but also being decisive and not afraid to trust our own professional judgment when we need to. And more than anything, I think we need to be unwavering in our principles without making enemies of our colleagues, because then we're totally ineffective. So it's a balance of a lot of factors, and my experience over the years has really been a very steep learning curve, one I would not trade for the world, and loved every minute. And I love the challenges that's presented and the growth that's come with it. And I'm ready for the next step, because I do believe that that knowledge and that understanding of that delicate balance is essential to being an effective policy leader. So I will also just say that I do believe in the last 3 years, I've proven that I'm not afraid to be a dissenting voice. I love working with people, but I have a very firm line that I'm not willing to cross in my ethics and ideals. And I'm not afraid to admit my own mistakes, to take the time to work through difficult issues, to have the difficult conversations. And as long as I'm making an informed and ethical decision, I can lay my head down at night knowing that I've done my best, and it's informed and it's ethical and right. I can live with people not accepting me and accepting my decisions. So between police investigations, the waste reduction program, I've made a lot of just tough decisions over the last, unpopular decisions over the last 3 years. And being on the board with the COVID pandemic has also been, a time where we had to really be decisive leaders in a tough and unprecedented time. So I hope to bring these qualities to Beacon Hill, but I do want to very quickly touch upon district issues. Coastal protection is certainly right up there. Climate change is happening. I think we all know that. We need state aid, continuing state aid in the resiliency and recovery of these, especially as the years go on. State assistance in cleaning up Kings Beach, the infrastructure of the seawall, the infrastructure contaminating the oceans and such. State issues, I'm very passionate about mental health and disability services, about housing, public housing, affordable housing, but also I think there's a huge gap in ways in which there's a rising population with the autism population and other developmental disabilities. And we really need to address how individuals, adults, as they grow into adults, they can have meaningful lives, live independent lives. We can provide services and residencies with work opportunities. And I have a lot of ideas. I'm very excited about the prospect, and that don't cost families $100,000 a year. We have to deal with this issue. Special education goes along with that. So last thing I'll say, and I have so much more to say, is I'm a solo practitioner. I practice family law, child welfare law. I practice in Salem and Lynn almost exclusively. And But between those families in some of the worst trauma, and even though my own personal family experiences of having children and adults with disabilities, family members with, you know, substance abuse history, substance use disorders, it affects all classes and everyone needs support. We all need more support in those areas, but especially the most vulnerable of our population. And financially, psychologically, educationally, I can't stress enough, which is probably pretty obvious. My passion about that. So I lied. I'm sorry. This is my last thing. We can have great leaders, but the system in place has to work. And one of the things I recently realized was that we still are the only state. I don't think I'm wrong about this. I think it's current that does not have an independent research bureau for state legislators. So legislators are left with their legislative staff, which is not equally distributed financially, to do the research of the fiscal analysis and the policy analysis of their proposals. And that's a huge burden. You know, if we really want thorough research and thorough policies to put on an individual legislators or sponsoring legislators. So I think following the rest of the country, that bringing that back and funding that again is crucial. And transparency, holding us all accountable for our votes and making sure that those are all recorded and we answer to our residents and our districts is essential. So I apologize. I have so much to say, and I hope I didn't go over for questions.
We have about a minute, but one question.
I'm so sorry.
How do folks get in touch with you or your campaign?
Yes, thank you. I was realizing I should have had something at the bottom of my screen. People are welcome to email me or call me. And my number is 978, and I apologize. I can send this to you, Kathy, if that's okay, and maybe it can go out. I have a website and Facebook page going up. I think they should be up. But 978-219-7137, and it's pollytitcomb@gmail.com. And reach out to me anytime.
Polly, you could put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know if that was disabled. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're ready for our last candidate. One second, Jen, until Polly finishes.
I apologize. There you go.
Thank you again.
I apologize for going over everybody.
No, you didn't
and I hope
go
to
over.
answer questions.
No, you didn't go over. We're all good. Thank you again.
Have a great night.
All righty, bye-bye. So you can let Terry into the room. Terry? Terry, are you there?
I am, Kathy. Hello.
Hey, welcome. I am so sorry you're the last one, but
that's all right. You saved the best for last.
The best for last. And we're not doing introductions. We're just letting the candidates kick off and use their whole 10 minutes. So.
All right, perfect. Well, first of all, I am a proud board member of the Democratic Town Committee in Marblehead. My name is Terry Toro, and I'm running for state rep in the 8th Essex District. I think you probably know that, and you've probably already heard it a few times tonight. I was born in Marblehead. I've raised my children here. I've gone to public schools here. I'm a single mom, and I raised my 2 fabulous daughters here, and we all attended Marblehead Public Schools. You know, I've worked all my life. I actually grew up in public housing at 10 Barnard Hawks Court in Marblehead. And I worked very hard to create opportunities for myself and my children. And I'm very proud of that. So I started in public housing, and now I have a modest home on Jersey Street in Marblehead. And I work for the Harbor Master Department. I'm the department administrator for the Harbor Master here in town. In my role at the Harbor Master's office, I've managed a few environmental friendly programs. We have the Clean Vessel Act, which is actually a free service for boaters to pump out their heads so that they're not dumping their waste into the waters in the area. The other program that I oversee is a shrink wrap recycling. It's the shrink wrap that you put on top of the boats, and this time of year it's being balled up everywhere, and and we have separate dumpsters up at the transfer station for that, so that it's recycled responsibly. We're currently working on ADA an ADA lift on one of our docks in the harbor so that there's access. It's a hoist. We've done a partnership with a nonprofit, and they bought the lift and we're installing it and taking up all the, we're doing all the work to install it and all the money that it will take to install it. So that's going to be an exciting thing at the harbor. What's the other thing that we've been desperately trying to find funding for solar docks to put the panels right in the solar docks on the public docks. They're in the sun all the time, all seasons. So it would be a really great situation if we could kick that off and start getting some municipal solar around, even if it was starting with the docks. My background and my work experience, I think, gives me a unique perspective to be a representative. I'm already a representative. I am the Labor Council. I'm the president of the labor union here in town, the Marblehead Municipal Employees Union. Best way to describe the municipal union is we're basically take care of the infrastructure in town. We're the workers that are at the Council on Aging, taking care of your senior citizens. We are highway, water and sewer, all the things that you don't really think about all the time, but are very important to everybody here in town. As the labor leader for the municipal employees, I have a very diverse group of skilled people with varying degrees of education, and some have master's degrees, the library or the finance department. Some are clerical workers, which they may have gone to secretarial school. I have the hands-on people, the people that work with their hands. They're snowplow drivers, grave diggers, transfer station people, heavy equipment operators. So if you can imagine, when I go into negotiations, it's a very difficult negotiation. I have to find something for everyone, and I have to take everyone's needs into account. And I'm very proud of my negotiating skills. I do that very well. I have negotiated probably the most prosperous 3 contracts in recent history for my members. And we're about 75% of the municipality. And we have a higher retention rate than the non-union members. And I'm going to take a little pat on the back, because I think that has something to do with the fact that I have fought so hard and advocated for them. I'm also on the board, the executive board of the North Shore Labor Council. So I know it sounds like my world's a little small in Marblehead, but it's not. I am a working family ambassador for the entire North Shore. The Labor Council is it's such a great organization. I just love it. They've also really prepared me for the political game, if you will, so that when I get to the State House, I will hit the ground running. I'm ready for whatever they can throw at me, because trust me, I've been going toe to toe with everybody in town for years. I decided to run. I decided to run late. I'm the last one who entered the race, and it was mostly on a personal level. I really want to be a role model to my children, to my daughters, especially. I'd like to. I would like to be a role model to all children. I mean, I grew up in public housing, and now I'm a state rep. It's a pretty incredible story, and it's really kind of the American dream. So, as on a personal note, that's why I'm running. Professionally, I'm a negotiator. I form coalitions, and I'm a working family ambassador. So I think I'm extremely qualified to be state rep. I'm empathetic. I answer my phone. I listen to everybody. I plan to be out in the community talking to people, hold office hours. It's what I love to do. I'm really passionate about it. And, there's no problem that's too big or small. I know a lot of us think, oh, that's nothing, but to you, a problem to yourself is a big thing when it might be small to someone else. But I have experience in dealing with all of that and dealing with different personalities. And I think that if you support me, I will bring it home for this district. And I'm really, really excited to get to work. So thank you. That's me.
Terrific. Do we have questions for Terry? Raise your hand. We've had some, oh, I see Mart, oh, that's a clap.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's supposed to be a raised hand.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
I'm
Mart.
dyslexic on this stuff. Yeah, Terry, can you briefly tell us your first two priorities if you're our rep?
Well, my first two, my biggest priority would probably be environmental. We're decades late starting our transition to renewable energy. And I think that we can't start that too soon. Being a labor leader as well, I want to make sure that I'm in place to facilitate a smooth transition for workers. We need the renewable energy. We need to make that shift, but we also need to make sure that our workers aren't left behind. The program that I really am interested in is the offshore wind farms. I've been looking into that a lot. In the test site down in Rhode Island is creating, only has five what do you call those things?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. I couldn't think of the word. And they're creating enough energy for 17,000 homes. And that's just a tiny little test site. So, you know, the projected project off of our shores is actually going to be much larger. And I'm very interested in joining Representative Moulton and Senator Markey in fighting for or advocating for the GE plant in Lynn to make those large turbines. Right now they're being made in France. You know, I don't know why, but we're trying to force GE's hand a little, because those turbines, it would be a very easy transition for the factory. And those turbines can literally be put on a barge right off the deck at GE and taken out to the site. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but it seems to be getting some opposition. So also school funding is very near and dear to my heart. I was a public school kid, public housing kid. I was, you know, my kids went to public schools, and there's funding out there for it. It's just not being allocated correctly. And I think that with the addition of the Fair Share Amendment, we can really do some great work in the schools if we focus and roll up our sleeves and go. So those would be my two top priorities, Margie. And I threw in a little of the labor unions in there too. You know, I had to. Why not?
Okay, so good. Someone has put your contact information into chat for folks.
Yes, please, any questions at all. I love to answer questions. I answer my phone all the time. Union members call me at 10 o'clock at night, whining about a bad day. So I'm always accessible.
Thanks so much, Terry. And we really appreciate your coming and sharing some of your priorities and history with us.
Well, thank you so much for having this forum. I was really looking forward to meeting everybody.
Thank you.
You.
Well, that's it, folks. I think we are so lucky to have such an incredible group of candidates.
Kathy, I raised my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Coco,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed
Does,
it.
does she still have time to answer one more question?
No, the time is up. I'm sorry, Coco.
Oh, that's okay. That's good.
But she put her information into chat, so feel free to email her or call her with your question. So in an effort to not make this meeting go much longer, Debbie or Natasha, do you want to say any closing comments?
No, I concur that we are lucky to have 6 people, each bringing a different perspective and a different skill set to the fore. In some ways you want to combine everybody, but this is just the first of an event that I know that we'll be holding, and I thought it was terrific. And I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their evening to learn about the next person that's going to represent us. So thank you. Very well run, Kathy.
Great. Natasha, do you want to say any closing parting words?
Sure. So thank you so much. I just want to thank everybody again for taking your time. I know everybody's time is precious, and I thank all of you just for being so concerned about like who our next person's going to be. It's going to be really important. So thank you for taking that time. And Lynn is very excited to be working with Marblehead and Swampscott, and we hope to do more events together. Thanks again.
Wonderful. And it's 8:15, right on schedule. So have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.